Controversy. Daylight saving time is about to return, and today I'm going to show you 7 things, 7 facts about daylight saving time. Why was it removed? Do people want it back? What savings does it create, and what's its purpose? Daylight saving time, near summer, means the sun rises earlier and sets later, giving us more sunlight. Daylight lasts longer, and when the time changes, we shift everything by an hour. If you have a watch like this one, you'd have to set it 1 hour ahead, so everything happens earlier. So, the first question, our first lesson from this video, is why are the days longer in the summer? I set up part of the solar system. This is the sun, and here is Earth. You know that the Earth revolves around the sun, but at the same time, it also spins on its own axis. That's why we have day and night. The whole point is that the Earth's axis is tilted. You can see this when you buy a globe. It doesn't come with the axis straight up. It's tilted at 23 degrees, just as you see here. That makes a big difference. That's what causes the seasons. In the position the celestial bodies are in right now, it's summer in the southern hemisphere. How do I know that? Because the part that's below the equator is much better lit than the part above. You can notice that the North Pole is in the dark, and the South Pole is in the sunlight. So, during summer, the South Pole has 24 hours of daylight, while the North Pole stays in darkness all day. But what about other places? Let's take São Paulo, which is where I am right now. It's about here. So the Earth rotates here. Day breaks in São Paulo, and there are long hours of sunlight. Plenty of sun, all day long in the summer. On the other hand, if we take somewhere in the Northern Hemisphere where it's winter, let's take Italy, for example. The day begins, spends little time in the sun, and soon it's night with only a few hours of sunlight. But the Earth revolves around the sun, and when it makes a quarter turn, it will be autumn in the Southern Hemisphere and spring in the Northern Hemisphere. What does that mean? It means both the Southern and Northern Hemispheres have equal daylight hours during the day. If we make another quarter turn, that situation from the beginning will be reversed. Due to the planet's tilt, the Northern Hemisphere gets much more light than the Southern Hemisphere. The one in the dark is the penguin down here. And if we go another quarter turn, we finally reach spring in the Southern Hemisphere and autumn in the Northern Hemisphere. It's similar to the situation we had on the other side. The period of daylight in the Southern Hemisphere and the Northern Hemisphere is the same. And then, after a year, after a complete revolution of planet Earth around the sun, everything starts over again. Summer in the Southern Hemisphere and winter in the Northern Hemisphere. So, it's because of Earth's revolution, its movement around the sun, and the tilt of its axis that we have longer days in the summer and shorter days in the winter. Alright, but what does my watch have to do with this? Why do I have to change the time because of this astronomical issue? The point is energy saving. If people leave work, leave school an hour earlier, they'll get home. At a time when there's still a lot of light, it's really well lit. They don't need to turn on the lights. I made a diagram to help explain. So imagine a person who wakes up at 6 in the morning. Right after that, they go to work, where they stay until 6 in the evening, and then get home to have dinner, take a shower, and so on. On a regular day, in autumn or winter, I don't know, the sun rises at 6 in the morning and it gets dark at 6 in the evening. 12 hours of sunlight. But in the summer, that changes. Now we have more hours of daylight. That means the sun rises before you wake up. And when you get home, there's still a little bit of sunlight. The problem is that we're wasting this here. No one is awake or working at this time, even though there's already sunlight. What's the solution? Change the time. Now we have more daylight here, see? After people have already gotten home, they use less electricity. They turn on fewer lights during this period. So, you save millions and millions and millions and millions of light bulbs that weren't turned on. The first time we had this time change was in 1931. But it didn't happen every summer. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It was only in 1985 that it started happening every year, and in 2019 it was ended. Was this invented in Brazil? Does it exist only here? No. Benjamin Franklin was the first to propose something like daylight saving time. That guy, who is considered one of the founders of the United States, and who invented the lightning rod. He noticed that in the summer, the days were longer. People could start work earlier, leave earlier, and return home without needing to light candles. Because back then, electric lamps weren't used. Daylight saving time was first tested in World War I due to Europe's coal shortages. In other words, they had an energy crisis. That happened again in the 70s when we had an oil crisis. The price of oil went up a lot. And then more countries adopted daylight saving time. And today, there are already more than 80 countries. But if it's something that has so many advantages, why did it stop? To begin with, Brazil doesn't have a summer as distinct as the countries that are closer to the poles, either far north or far south. Here, the seasons are more mixed. Just so you have an idea, in São Paulo, which is about this distance from the equator, on the longest day of the year, the sun stays up for 13 hours, giving us 13 hours of daylight. If we compare it to Paris, which is a bit farther from the equator, it already has 16 hours of daylight. The difference is much bigger, so in places nearer the extremes, daylight saving time makes more sense than it does here. More importantly, we used to have very few household appliances. As a child, I'd never heard of microwaves, air fryers, or air conditioning. You'd only find that in big buildings like banks, never in a home. Especially after daylight saving time was introduced, the lamp was the one that used a lot of energy, the great villain. This kind of bulb that was used back then, the incandescent bulb. It has a filament inside, a little coil that, when the electricity passes through, heats up like a shower resistor. And then, this heat makes that little coil emit a lot of light. But it's a lamp that's not efficient at all. It uses a lot of energy to produce little light. It uses about 10 times more than an LED lamp. In the end, we use more energy at home because we have a lot more appliances. But that has nothing to do with the lamp. In fact, the LED lamp now uses less energy. So, getting home earlier, getting home while it's still daylight, doesn't make much difference in energy consumption anymore. In 2019, Brazil ended daylight saving time, questioning its worth. So, why consider bringing it back? Because we're having another energy crisis. The hydroelectric plant reservoirs are low, with little water left, so we risk suddenly losing power. Anything that saves energy is worthwhile. And another change is that nowadays, we have a lot more energy generation from wind and solar plants, which work really well when it's sunny during the day. So, if we take advantage and use electricity while these plants are running, we don't need to turn on the thermoelectric or hydroelectric plants, which are running low on water. And look, daylight saving time might have other advantages that we can't even imagine. Unfortunately, we live in a dangerous country where we're afraid to walk on the street at night. So, if we move the clock forward, we leave work while it's still sunny and bright. You can meet up with friends at a bar or a restaurant, and that boosts the economy. Just so you have an idea, the Brazilian Association of Bars and Restaurants estimates there will be a 15% increase in business. But hold on, it's not all positive. The main argument against daylight saving time is it's bad for your health. People can now leave home while it's still light, making it safer to exercise or run in the park. But in general, our bodies are already used to our routine, used to sleeping and waking up at specific times. If I ask you right now, what time is it? You know what time it is without looking at the clock, because your biological clock is already working really well. Daylight saving time disrupts everything, including our hormone production. You'll get sleepier, be in a worse mood, and your performance at school and work will decline. It's not just a minor personal annoyance that slightly bothers us, no. A United States study found fatal car accidents rise by 6% in the first days of daylight saving time. A University of Michigan study, linked in the video description, reports an increase in workplace accidents. And another study from Johns Hopkins shows that by increasing stress levels, the risk of heart problems, diabetes, and obesity also increases. So, these people who are focused on health say that the energy savings aren't worth it, since you'll end up spending a lot of money to solve health problems. I think we have enough arguments now for you to share your opinion in the comments. Do you like daylight saving time? Is it really worth it? I'll leave my comment, okay? That's not something I usually do in the videos. I love leaving work earlier, and it's still bright outside. Walking on the street and meeting friends is nice, but I really suffer a lot. Months after daylight saving time began, my body still hasn't adjusted. I wake up in a bad mood every morning and struggle to work. It's not just me. My dad complained about daylight saving time his whole life. We could save electricity differently. I'll just give 2 examples here. The first is teaching people how to use air conditioning properly, right? This appliance has only been around for a short time. And not everybody knows, for example, that we have to keep the window and door closed. Otherwise, air conditioning doesn't make any sense. Cold air sinks, so if you leave the door open, it escapes like water, and hot air enters. So, the room won't get cold unless you set the air conditioner to maximum, using the most energy. The second thing is that we live in a very hot country with a lot of sun, and it doesn't make sense for us to keep using electric showers. Absolutely, every house should have a solar heating system and only use electricity to heat water when it's really necessary.